AMP Energy India is India's leading and fastest growing renewable energy company. With a current portfolio of about 1 gigawatt spread across the 15 states in the country, AMP Energy India is one of India's only triple play renewable developer, that is utility, distributed generation and open access. Having a balanced portfolio of C&I and utility customers, it currently offers green power to 45 plus marquee customers across pharmaceuticals, automobiles, cement, steel, heavy engineering, infrastructure, FMCG, educational institutions, IT and data centers, utilities and government bodies, leading to a well-balanced portfolio. Some of these customers are amongst country's leading corporates, such as Skoda Auto Volkswagen India, Cipla, Bharti Airtel, Britannia, AB InBev, Tata Hitachi, Orient Cement, L&T Metro Rail, and Hewlett Packard Enterprise, to name a few. AMP Energy India provides a strong value proposition to its customers by acting as a one-stop shop for energy, providing sustainable solutions to them across different geographies and technologies such as solar, wind, hybrids, storage and energy management. This helps the customers in reducing their overall energy costs and mitigating their carbon footprint. AMP Energy India is the Indian arm of the AMP Energy Group, headquartered in Toronto, Canada, with about $2 billion total capex financed globally. A pipeline of 1.5 gigawatt plus, AMP Energy is a rapidly growing global IPP backed by leading investors with a focus on the leading solar renewable markets such as US, Canada, India, Japan and Australia globally. Having the backing of leading international institutional investors such as Kotak, SMBC, CBRE Caledon and LGD Lightstone Espada. AMP Energy India has a deep debt and equity financing expertise, which in turn transpires into a high ESG, also known as IFC standards and corporate governance standards, with a unique capability to straddle utility-scale renewable energy projects, power markets, battery energy storage and C&I RE projects in India and beyond. AMP Energy India is well on its way to doubling its portfolio by 2022 and becoming a true market leader and a global powerhouse in delivering tomorrow's energy today.
This is our home, a paradise. So beautiful and perfect, so harmonious that it could create life. Humans, so evolved and intelligent, capable of replicating nature's power of creation. With the discovery of fossil fuels and petroleum and the generation of power and electricity, we advanced in technology and infrastructure, and our world began to change. Population increased, and we started needing more energy. Thus we changed the face of the earth. But do we realize that our creations are slowly destroying the earth?
At present, we are spewing more than 110 million tons of global warming pollution into the atmosphere every single day, as if it's an open sewer. So yes, we do have to change. The scientists have long warned us that we must, and now Mother Nature is doing so with her much more powerful voice.
Solar panels were first used in satellites because we wanted it to last forever. Otherwise,
हेलो आपने अपना चेक कर लिया सीएम का ऑडियो एंड वीडियो हैज बीन चेक्ड
हेलो
यार
मैम हेलो
Yeah, you, Minister. Hello, Minister साहब का
Yeah.
ऑफिस
हेलो
है ना?
यस सर Yes, sir.
अच्छा अच्छा
Minister
हमारा
from
आएगा. Okay.
Minister's office.
Just say something. Let me hear whether it's correct or not. I mean, it's
Hello.
audible or
Yes,
not.
sir. I am Amit Kumar from Minister's office. Am I audible
Oh,
clearly?
yeah, you are audible. Audible.
Audible, just keep your
Video is
volume
clear?
little higher. Huh? He prefers it like that.
आपका वॉल्यूम थोड़ा वीक है, थोड़ा उसको ज्यादा कर देना बस.
Hmm.
Okay, sir.
रेणुका
ठीक
सिंह.
है. Babu, I'm told he will join on time, huh?
हाँ.
I'm told he will join on time.
On time. Okay, so let me. I'll tell CB.
So
हाँ
I'm
अभी तो टाइम है.
signing off.
अभी टाइम है. Okay.
So now he's logged in. I'll sign off, huh? Then I'll talk later.
हाँ, fine.
The batteries would wear out.
Do we have the ability to solve this crisis? Fortunately, the exciting answer to this question is also yes.
अगर हम डेवलपमेंट एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली नहीं करते हैं, विकास और प्रकृति पर्यावरण की रक्षा नहीं करते हैं, तो विकास हमारे लिए भी संकट बन सकता है.
Avada is a leading builder of renewable energy projects in India. We have built complex solar and wind power projects aggregating to over 1.1 gigawatt capacities across diverse geographies. We have built some of India's largest capacities. We were the first in the country to build a 1 gigawatt solar portfolio.
This is only the beginning. We need scale to power the entire country using the solar, scale to change the brown sources of energy with cleaner sources of energy like solar and wind. Thanks to our amazing engineering, procurement and construction team, we have managed to do the solar project and wind project in a very economical and sustainable fashion.
Our emphasis on systems and processes has enabled the organization for flawless execution by consistently decreasing its on-ground development cycle, thus completing projects several months before schedule. We have pioneered solar power solutions, both in terms of plant size and total installation capacity, helping bring the solar tariff closer to grid parity. The plants we have built were numbered among those with the highest efficiency in India.
We are showing the world that solar energy is not only sustainable form of energy, but investing in solar can be profitable too.
With our strong EPC execution capabilities and project portfolio, we had managed to build a competitive advantage through already locked-in land banks, long-term signed MOUs, PPAs with state utilities. We have drawn investors like Asian Development Bank, General Electric Capital, and DG from Germany for our past projects.
In next 5 years, India should become the largest clean energy power producer in the world.
We need to be responsible because in the coming years, India is going to be a major manufacturing hub for the world. Currently, Germany, Denmark, and Costa Rica are the leading countries with regards to renewable energy generation.
In the next 10 years, we will take India forward to a sustainable journey.
Avada is a socially conscious organization conceived with a vision to look at all levels of social change.
Hello.
The scalability of renewable projects
Hello. Hello. Is there anyone? Anyone?
allows its usage in varied geographies and applications. This presents a unique advantage for India, where 540 million out of 1.2 billion Indians do not have access to electricity.
Teachers from government school are trained in specialized subjects to enhance their training delivery mechanism by using experiential training methodology. We work with the women in the rural communities to ensure that they can learn stitching, they can learn the beautician course. It doubles the income of the family, and what it also does, it ensures that women's own self-esteem becomes better. As a holistic, environmental friendly company, our green efforts does not stop with clean energy. Due to non-availability of medical services and lack of awareness among rural Indians, we are seeing a high rate of infant mortality. We need to bridge this gap which exists between urban and rural India.
I know the world can come together as one at a time of crisis. We always have.
This is a moment in time when business leaders, government officials, and citizens from all over India have come together to embrace the potential for a bright new future and a sustainable world.
We are the generation responsible for the way we are going to be for the next 500 years. All we have to do is to start looking up at the sky. Let's create a history that's going to be cherished. Avada, promise of a sustainable future.
Have a great day, honey.
Thanks, Dad. Even though I wasn't a kid anymore, I still used to nudge my dad at work. His daily adventures for creating new energy. His words made me feel good.
All the energy of tomorrow will be clean and renewable.
And this will help people achieve their goals. I wanted to be like him. What could I do to help the future of energy?
In 10 years, we will reach an incredible amount of green capacity. Also supported by innovative, sustainable technologies.
And finally, we did it. New digital tools allowed us to think faster and to convert after years.
Can you hear me, Natarajan?
Into
Okay.
green, sustainable ways, leaving the coal power generation behind in our past, giving new life to materials, equipment, and resources, supporting communities for a better living, taking care of the environment around us. Remember when you were little and we were watching the Olympics? In those days, another ambitious idea was taking shape. The first solar power grid on Mars. And you might be the one who makes it happen. GE
Hello, is it Dr. Costa?
Hello, I'm here. Should I put my video on?
Hello.
Hello, let's see. Are you seeing me now?
I can't hear you. Could you unmute yourself?
I have already unmuted myself. Can't you hear me?
Yeah, and now I can hear you. Fine,
Okay,
fine.
okay. Great.
Nice meeting you. We'll start in next 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Could you switch on your video also? Yes.
I have.
Hi, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm going to shut off everything now and I'll wait for 5 minutes.
Yeah, just another 4-5 minutes. Even Dr. Costa has joined. I am waiting for CB to join. We'll start in 5 minutes.
Perfect. Everything is on time, I'm hoping?
Yes.
Great. Hi, CB. I can't hear you.
Hi, Rahul. Hi. Great to see you.
How have you been?
Very good, very good, very good. All well, safe and sound, hopefully, at your side.
All good, all safe. Yes.
Yeah.
Ready to say, look at this pandemic in the rearview mirror now. It's gone on for long enough.
Yeah.
Mhm. But this format of conferences is much better. You can attend more.
Yeah,
And
where from wherever you are, excepting for sometimes it becomes a strain, Rahul, because I mean sometimes we go by Indian timing, and it becomes very difficult for if somebody is outside and has to join the call, and you are attending to both parts of the hemisphere. There we have Miss Agnes.
Here, I am from outside. From Brazil,
That's
it's
right.
8:30 here in the morning.
We are so sorry about it and so thankful to you.
No problem. No problem. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Hi, Agnes. How are you?
Oh, fine. I will address in my speech. My father is from India, so I'm very pleased to be here today.
Lovely to have you here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. CB, we are starting on time?
Yeah, we are starting on time. We have just hit the time. Yeah. So if you are comfortable, we can start. We have all the attendees who have joined us already for this session. So I really wanted to. We have in this session the Indian Minister for Commerce and Industry, Honorable Mr. Piyush Goyal, and we have the head of the Regulatory Advisory Office of or the Brazilian Ministry of Mines and Energy. And so these are two of our star speakers, and very happy actually to have you, Ms. Agnes Da Costa. Also with me is Mr. Rahul Munjal. Rahul is the co-chairman of CII's Renewable Energy Council, and myself, Chandrajit Banerjee, the Director General of CII. So great to have you, and we also have the Minister from India, Mr. Piyush Goyal, whose office is already joined in. And we just wanted to say that this is a very important initiative that we take from CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, every year, basically to have this focus on RE manufacturing. And this is the entire focus is on renewable energy manufacturing, and this is a conference and a forum and an exhibition which we have started yesterday, and since today this is the valedictory session, the ultimate session, and it's really great to have had the participation of Brazil, and as one of our partner countries. And I must say that Brazil's participation in this particular conference has been very meaningful, and we have had other individuals, experts from Brazil who appeared in a session on biofuels when we were talking about ethanol blending, which is again a very strong focus for India. And so we are indeed very happy that you have also joined Ms. Da Costa for this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, that we have two very important speakers besides Rahul, who will give the Indian industry perspective. I just wanted to say that Miss Agnes Da Costa, she'll, of course, as she speaks, she will speak about her connect with India. But more so, I also just wanted to mention that she has great experience in coordinating collaborative work by putting many stakeholders together to build solutions that generate a common public value, and this is very critical. And our main experience in coordinating collaborative work have been the privatization processes of power utilities, the Brazilian power sector reform, as well as in many market design, sustainable development, and innovation. And with an extensive list of publications that you have, and appearances as speakers in the national and international forums, debating the role and trends of the energy sector, you really contribute to the understanding of the policies under the development in Brazil, and I would say worldwide. And you have also been adding with your sectoral expertise and your the business savvy to corporate boards for many years, I believe, but more than 6 years that you have been, and you have been a real enthusiast of the role played by the energy sector in social and economic inclusion. So this is a very, very critical for today's conference, and I'm so happy that you have taken time off in not so very friendly an hour in Brazil. It's just about 8:30 in the morning. So thanks for checking in. And here we have Rahul, who is supposed to, as I said, who will give us the Indian perspective just after I conclude, and I ask Rahul to give his presentation. Rahul has also joined us, not from India, but he is joined us from London. And so there you are, Rahul. So come near home today. You've got the opportunity to be at home for the next 1 hour and give your perspective of what you think is being done by the Indian industry sector in this very, very important area of discussions that we have this evening. With that, once again, I'd like to welcome all our speakers who have gathered from across the country in India. There are many other global participants who have joined us. We had today in this conference around 1,000 odd participants, which is a very, very strong show of hands in terms of commitment to this very important subject. And therefore, it would be very, very interesting to hear in this concluding session the perspective of our Indian government, from our Honorable Minister, from Brazil, and from the Indian industry, from Rahul. So with those words, once again, thank you and welcome to everybody. And I'll request Rahul to go ahead, please, and give your views. Rahul.
Many thanks, CB. Many thanks for that lovely introduction. Good evening, everybody in Delhi. Good morning, everybody in Brazil. And good afternoon, everybody in Europe. At the outset, let me add my welcome to the Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, and Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your invaluable time for this important interaction. Your personal presence and perspective will add immense value to our deliberations, and we in CII are confident that under your guidance and support, we will be able to make India one of the most attractive destinations for clean energy investments. A very warm welcome to you, Ms. Agnes M. Di Costa. You're the head of the Regulatory Advisory Office, Brazilian Ministry of Mines and Energy, who has joined the conference all the way from Brazil this morning. Thank you, Ms. Agnes. India's energy sector is undergoing a transition, moving away from fossil fuel to cleaner sources of fuel, like everywhere else in the world. But India ranks third in renewable energy country attractive index today in the year 2021. Wind and solar renewable energy capacity in India is currently already at 94 gigawatts, which is about 25% of its total installed power capacity. Solar power has grown at a CAGR of almost 40% in the last 6 years to reach 40 gigawatts of installed capacity as on March 2021. With India setting a target of 450 gigawatts of installed wind and solar capacity by 2030, almost 30% of electricity generation will come from renewables in a decade's time from just 7% currently. Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, or Self-Reliant India campaign, is a powerful vision of the new India envisaged by our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji. This is not only about self-reliance, but about engaging with the world from a position of strength, where India should be seen as a dependable partner and a reliable friend in a global market, particularly when the global value chain has faced disruptions in the recent past. We compliment the government for taking many path-breaking initiatives, such as introducing Basic Customs Duty, also known as BCD, performance-linked incentive scheme, to promote and encourage domestic renewable energy manufacturing. We believe it is the most opportune time for Indian renewable energy manufacturers to scale up their operations to make in India and make India a global export hub. Another major initiative by Government of India, which is set to transform energy sector, is ethanol blending policy. We welcome the announcement of 20% ethanol blending with petrol by 2023. India is 83% dependent on imports from meeting its oil needs. Ethanol blending will not only cut down the import requirements, but also help curtail the carbon emissions and also increase farmers' income. Brazil has a very rich experience in this area. In our view, India and Brazil can forge a good partnership and technical collaboration in ethanol blending program. CII has been working closely to support government's efforts and policies for fostering growth for the renewable energy sector. Renewable energy manufacturing is one of the key priority areas within CII. Yesterday, we released a roadmap for self-reliance in RE manufacturing, which highlights the potential and some of the policy initiatives such as incentives for R&D and skill development, supportive policies by states to attract investments in RE manufacturing, etc., that need to be taken to make India a RE manufacturing hub. With these few words, I once again thank the Honorable Minister for his presence and participation, and I assure him that the support, that the policy initiatives are actioned into commercially and viable and sustainable output from the industry. Thank you, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Rahul. That was very, very sharp and short and sweet. So thank you very much for really keeping it to the point and making some of those very important issues. And I'm sure the Honorable Minister and our colleague from Brazil will both touch upon as responses to some of the issues that you have raised. With that, it's my pleasure to invite the head of the Regulatory Advisory Office of the Brazilian Ministry of Mines and Energy, Ms. Agnes M. de Costa, to give her presentation in this valedictory address. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Dear Honorable Minister Goyal, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it was with great honor that the Minister of Mines and Energy of Brazil, Mr. Bento Albuquerque, who I humbly represent today, accepted this kind invitation from the Government of India to participate in the second edition of the Digital Conference and Exhibition on Self-Reliance for Renewable Energy Manufacturing. As already mentioned, Brazil and India have so much in common and several aspects. To start with me, my father is from India. What makes this opportunity to be contributing to this debate, which is important for both countries, an even greater honor. Thank you very much for this opportunity. But other similarities between Brazil and India are the scale of our territories and population, the size of our economies, our technological development, and the willingness of our public and private leaderships. Both countries are energy powers, and this enormous potential that we can jointly explore may produce positive impacts in both societies. As you probably know, Brazil has a long tradition and experience with renewables, which is a result of long-term consistent public policies, significant investments, and a lot of human effort and dedication combined with our abundant natural resources and generous weather conditions. So when the world is starting to transition towards decarbonized energy sectors, our country has been undergoing a steady energy transition process for at least half a century. Due to this effort, Brazil has developed one of the cleanest energy mixes in the world. As a result of our combined use of hydro, bioenergy, and more recently, wind and solar, renewables are responsible for 46% of our total primary energy supply, while the world average is 14%. And As for our electric matrix, renewables account for 85%, a level almost without equivalent in the world. This conference aimed at addressing initiatives to boost manufacturing competitiveness of the India's renewable energy sector, highlighting the potentials for the developments of wind and solar industries, for example. Both industries are also well established in Brazil, and this is due to our energy auction policy from the beginning of the 2000s, and more recently also due to an increase in distributed generation, mainly from PV panels. Procuring energy through auctions enable an increasingly competitive penetration of these new renewables, as we call them, to our already very clean electricity mix, which was then very dependent on hydropower. So wind power, for example, was responsible for only 93 gigawatt hours production in 2005, reaching more than 57,000 gigawatt hours in 2020, when wind power accounted for 16 gigawatts of installed capacity in Brazil. And when we look into the future, wind, solar, and distributed generation are expected to continue growing in terms of participation in our electricity mix. But when we think about carbon neutrality by 2050, it's important that we recognize that electrification will not be enough. The International Energy Agency's net zero scenario by 2050 has already shown us that biofuels are to play an important role in the pathway towards decarbonization, and an area in which Brazil has a lot of experience to share. In the case of biofuels, they have been an essential part of our national energy policies for about 5 decades, ensuring the security of national supply and promoting at the same time the decarbonization of the Brazilian matrix of fuels. We estimate that in 2029, the participation of biofuels in the Brazilian transport sector will grow from 23 to 29%, a level without equivalent in the rest of the world. Let me highlight the case of ethanol, which is one of the sectors in which Brazil and India are already exploring ways to collaborate. In the 70s, in the context of the oil crisis, Brazil implemented a series of public policies aimed at the use of ethanol as a substitute for gasoline. In the 2000s, the development of flex fuel vehicles gave a new boost to this biofuel. Brazil counts nowadays with about 360 operating ethanol plants, which are responsible for a production of 35 billion liters of ethanol a year. As a result of our current biofuel policy, the Renewable, ethanol supply in Brazil is expected to grow around 45% until 2030. Brazil and India have already started exploring ways to deepen our technical cooperation and to stimulate business and investments in ethanol. In 2019, we organized a roadshow in New Delhi, which brought together representatives of government, research institutes, and the private sector, in order to create a network and to discuss topics related to the production and consumption of ethanol, including integration to automobile industry and to the oil sector. We will work together with the Indian government with a view to convene a second exercise on ethanol, this time in Brazil, with the focus on technical innovation and business development. As for biodiesel, a new blending level of 13% was adopted last March, and we are working to enable a blend of around 15% from 2023 onwards. As for the moment, Brazil has 49 biodiesel units, producing 9.6 billion liters a year. In terms of job creation, and this is an important information, estimates in Brazil are that for each percentage point of biofuel blend to fossil fuels, we create about 34,000 direct jobs. So by 2023, with a blend of 15%, we expect to have created 510,000 direct jobs in this industry. As to the current Brazilian policy for biofuels, the Renewable, it is important to highlight that this is one of the largest transport decarbonization programs in the world, aiming to significantly expand production and use of biofuels in the transport sector. It promotes investment, innovation, and sustainability by tying incentives to well-measured environmental performance. We are so proud of this successful initiative that we presented it last month as one of our energy compacts for the UN High-Level Dialogue on Energy, hoping to inspire other countries with enormous biofuel potentials like India. Before I conclude, I want to point to another promising and versatile energy vector that might contribute a lot to decarbonization by 2050, and around which Brazil and India may collaborate well, become strong manufacturing leaders, and this is hydrogen. I recently participated in a digital event also organized by India called BRICS Webinar on Green Hydrogen Initiatives. And it became very clear to me that both Brazil and India may play an important role in the future hydrogen economy. This is also why the second Brazilian Energy Compact at the UN High-Level Dialogue on Energy is about creating a consistent, comprehensive, and systematized knowledge base about hydrogen in Brazil, comprising also R&D investments in order to foster this industry consolidation in the coming years. So, to conclude, let me address our common interests in the international arena. Our countries are partners in the Biofuture platform, pushing an important agenda for global carbon neutrality by 2050. In 2020, Brazil and India signed 3 memoranda of understanding in the areas of mining and energy, one specifically on bioenergy. Brazil and India are also global champions in the theme of energy transition at the UN High-Level Dialogue on Energy. Brazil also praises Indian leadership ahead the International Solar Alliance, and in a wider context, Brazil is fully supporting India's presidency of the BRICS. These are examples that show us that Brazil and India can greatly benefit from a stronger collaboration in clean energy to help build a prosperous and sustainable future, engaging all interested stakeholders in renewable energy in our countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been very, very helpful, very, very useful. In fact, we would not like to let you go without a few thoughts and questions from our side. One of the big, and I'll request Rahul, who has also wanting to come and ask a couple of questions and to get some of your thoughts from your observations just now. We see so much of synergy that's possible between Brazil and India and Indian companies. So I think we would like to have an institutionalized mechanism of a dialogue between Brazil and India, especially in the private sector, from our business from a B2B point of view, and also some of our businesses from India, if we could explore opportunities by talking to you and to your other colleagues in the government in Brazil. So we would like to take that forward, Madam Da Costa, if you could, in fact, I understand, and in today's time, it might be very difficult for us to immediately commit as to we want to be there in Brazil with you in the next few days, probably not. But then in the next couple of months or so, if in 2 months down the line or so, if you are able to organize a virtual sort of an interaction with certain groups in Brazil, especially yourselves and your ministry and others, it would be very useful for our industry and for CII and our members to have that interaction. Would you think that that's something that we could explore, please?
Yes, of course. Yesterday, I was with the minister talking to our what we called the connection of industries. So this is something that we can arrange also with our embassy in New Delhi. And for sure, I think there is a lot of interest in this closer relationship among industries, because as mentioned, we have so many common interests, and the size of our territories, the climate that we also share make us similar potentials in both countries, I think, to share knowledge, experience, and also to learn from each other. So I think, and look for opportunities for companies. So as one example, we see in the wind sector, the same companies that are in Brazil are also in India. So I think that there are a lot of synergies that we can explore from these experiences.
Right. Thank you very much. That's very, very useful. Rahul?
Yes, thanks, Evie. Ms. Da Costa, it was a very, very interesting talk that you spoke about, and you spoke about 3 or 4 things which are extremely close to my heart. And I think, it make a very interesting discussion, because Brazil is doing so well in ethanol, and the way Brazil mixes ethanol with fuel we understand. I want to just for the listeners or people who have signed in, just tell us a little bit about history. How did Brazil get into biofuels so early in the day? When nobody else was talking about it. And how did you convince the automotive and other departments that it is good for them? Because I do know the automobiles, etc., which are sold in Brazil are different from all over the world only because of the content of ethanol that you have. So one is from a industry perspective, and second is what benefits has this got for the farmers? Because I know, at the end of the day, farmers win because they get to sell a produce, and the produce is, I guess it's worth its weight in gold. So two different questions around ethanol. One is around the industry, and one is around the farmers, please. If you can throw some light on this, that'd be very good.
Thank you very much. These are very interesting questions. So we started with ethanol as a response to the oil crisis, but because I think the sugarcane industry is part of our history. So because from our colonial times, we were sugar exporters. So when the oil crisis hit Brazil, we soon saw an opportunity to shift the productions there to produce ethanol and fuel then cars with ethanol. So at the beginning, we just had cars fueled 100% with ethanol. So we convinced the automobile industry in Brazil at that time, and they developed all the motors, engines for 100% ethanol fueled cars. And then with the technological development, there were still cars fueled with ethanol, but I think that we were seeing that we will lose this market unless we change again. So working together with the automobile industry, we designed what we call the flex fuel engines. Flex fuel engines, they work on any combination of ethanol and gasoline. So if you go to, if you want and want to buy gasoline or ethanol, you look at the prices and you choose any mix you want. So we still have all cars, mainly all cars, light fleet vehicles in Brazil, they are flex fuel vehicles. And then when we talk about the social responsibility, it's very interesting because we started our biofuel industry with ethanol, and then we moved and expanded it to biodiesel as well. And at the beginning of the biodiesel policy, we established what we call the social stamp for the biofuel, so that a part of it was bought from smaller producers. And now this has become really good businesses also for these farmers. And what we are working now in the Renewable Bio policy, and you can check this on the video that we launched for the Energy Compact for the Renewable Bio, we are working on certifying the sustainability of these seeds for the biofuel production, looking also into the social aspect. So I think it's very feasible to design a policy that look into environmental and social aspects with biofuels. And this is something that we can gain a lot, our countries and other countries that have the same weather and also land as we have. And when I talk about sustainability, it's also important to mention that we are also looking and to prove with the certification that we are not talking about deforestation. So we are really talking about areas where we have the plantations already. So we are investing in increasing the efficiency of these plantations, and so increasing the production of biofuels in Brazil. So this is a program that we are really very proud of, and we are really pleased to be able to share this experience with you.
Great,
So,
great. Rahul, go ahead.
So, Ms. Da Costa, there is three things that come to mind. One is, of course, a G2G policy discussion, which is extremely important. Then is a B2B, business to business. And in business to business, there's the MSME to MSME, medium and small enterprise from India to medium and small. And then the third is agriculture to agriculture. So we need to bring in a new, maybe new conversation starter here, where we get both the agricultural and if the yield is as good as you say it is, I'm sure there is some learnings there for us as well, and I think that will be fabulous.
Yeah, Yeah. No, go ahead, Rahul. Please,
No,
go
sorry,
ahead.
please. I was going to skip to a different discussion. So if you have same point,
No,
then
no. I also just wanted to put in one thought for Ms. De Costa is like India today has committed 20% 20 has committed for 20% for blending, and this requires huge investment by oil companies, as you can well appreciate. How did you go about doing that in Brazil, facilitating investment of this magnitude? What is it that you did it in Brazil, and what is it your advice for maybe after that question we will move to our honorable minister who is now right now there. So
Okay, this is a
welcome,
good
welcome,
question
honorable.
because we at the beginning in the 70s there were really a lot of subsidies because we have to shift the matrix very quick because of the oil crisis. But I don't know, since the 80s there are no public subsidies for biofuel production in Brazil. And when we look into the industry, I think we are living in a very good momentum in the world because oil and gas companies, they are shifting their brands towards energy companies. They want to decarbonize also their activities. So I think there is a good way to bring them together to work with us in this biofuel agenda. And for a good example is, for example, Shell in Brazil that has also Raízen, which is one of the major biofuel producers in Brazil. So I think they are really already aligned into this initiative. So I think you have a great opportunity as well.
Thank you. Thank you for taking on a couple of questions, which was completely unscheduled, and we just wanted to take advantage of your presence and get those questions there. And we'll now move to our, with your permission, Madam. Thank you very much for sparing those extra minutes for giving us those answers. We have, of course, with us, as I mentioned, our Honorable Minister for Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, and Food and Public Distribution and Textiles of the Government of India, Honorable Shri Piyush Goyal. And as I had mentioned, that Mr. Goyal has been someone. We are talking about today renewable energy manufacturing, and the entire piece of manufacturing, if I may say, is a huge part of Mr. Goyal's responsibility, Ms. De Costa, and it is and for us at CII, he is like the parent ministry, and throughout the entire COVID period that we had. It was
CB,
with
don't
him
forget,
that
he's also the parent of renewable energy industry.
yes, of course, and he has been holding our hands in terms of how industry navigated through those challenging times, and in fact, in India, contributed by this partnership with the government under his leadership in many ways. So we always turn to him not only for. If I may say, not only under the long list of direct responsibilities that came under him, as you heard, but for many other issues that we keep going to him because he really sees to it that it gets sorted out, and we are able to work in these very difficult times, and these difficult times have been actually made into opportunities in many respects. And when we are talking about investments, that is something which is completely, he is the boss and he is the one who is responsible for it on the manufacturing side. So it'll be a pleasure listening after the industry perspective we have got from Rahul and the Brazilian perspective that we have got from you, Ms. Agnes da Costa. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome and invite our chief guest for the valedictory session, Mr. Piyush Goyal, to give his address. Over to you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Chandrajit, for those very humbling comments. A little exaggerated, maybe. Thank you, Ms. Da Costa, for participating in this very important second edition of the Self-Reliance for Renewable Energy Manufacturing Conference and Exhibition. And CII truly has been a very strong torchbearer of India's vision to become a self-reliant and an economy that not only provides for the billion plus people in India for the industrial and economic base of India, but CII has been the voice of India worldwide. And I'm really delighted that they've organized this virtual conference and exhibition to showcase the huge potential that India offers in the renewable energy manufacturing space. Rahul Munjal has been one of the major players in the renewable energy sector since several years. And I'm sure his leadership of the CII Renewable Energy Council will help people really understand the huge potential that India has to offer. Almost everyone present in this conference are important partners in the renewable energy space, and at some point or the other, I've interacted with them. But I must share with you, Mr. Costa, that there's a saying in one of our Indian mythological texts called Atharveda, which says, and I quote, "Earth is my mother and I am her child." In a sense, it only highlights the sacred connection that each Indian has with Mother Nature. It's just a very natural phenomena for us right from childhood to be connected to nature. Environmental care is not that the world wants us to do it. When we talk about climate change and taking care of the environment, it's not because at Paris in the COP21, we all agreed that we have to save the planet. We all took in some nationally determined contributions towards that goal of not allowing the temperature to go above 2 degrees. Not that it looks to happen the way the world is going, not that it looks to happen the way we are messing up with the environment every single day that passes. But everybody understands it's important. Everybody calls it the inconvenient truth. But very few are willing to take action to resolve that inconvenient truth. In fact, Prime Minister Modi, soon after Vice President Al Gore came out with his book, The Inconvenient Truth, within a few months of that, Prime Minister Modi came out with his version, calling it the convenient action. And that's what I'm going to share with the distinguished participants today about what India is doing and how we have evolved in our actionable agenda towards addressing this big challenge before the world. Our culture, our traditional practices, our way of living, it truly reflects this consciousness. And I remember on an earlier CII occasion mentioning that an Indian child, when he's young, even when he walks out of his room, and if he doesn't switch off the light and the fan, forget air conditioners, that's a luxury still not available with every home. But even if you don't switch off a thing like a light or a fan, which barely consumes any electricity, you can surely get a spanking from your mother for your carelessness. And as Prime Minister Modi also says, for us, protecting the environment is an article of faith. It's something that we are absolutely committed to, and therefore, waste is completely unacceptable to a typical Indian or an Indian family. Recycling, reuse, ensuring that minimum amount of wastage is there in our food, in our consumption of any product, is like a given. I know families, I know communities where in your dining table, on the dining plate, you're not allowed to leave a morsel also. Take only as much as you can eat. But what you've taken, you better eat. So that if you have overeaten, the next time you'll take less. And in that context, if we see our Indian landscape, we've been blessed by nature also. We have huge amount of water in terms of our rivers. We have sun round the year. We have very good wind velocities in different parts of the country. And we have young entrepreneurs, our startups who are willing to engage with environment protection and sustainability.
We
Piyush, we
can't
can't
hear
hear
you.
you.
Something has happened. We can't hear you.
India was amongst the first few countries to set up hydropower generation plants. And very early on, maybe 60 years ago or 70 years ago, our first hydro plant, in fact, of 130 kilowatts, very small plant, was started in 1897, 125 years ago, by a very visionary entrepreneur at that point of time. It's a hill station in Darjeeling in West Bengal. We have had visionaries like Baba Sahib Ambedkar, a founding father of the Indian Constitution, the framer of the Indian Constitution, who laid the foundation of an all India policy with regards to developing hydro plants and electric power from water. He in fact set up the Damodar Valley Corporation, Hirakud, many hydro projects which came up under his leadership several decades ago. Because of the scale at which we made hydropower, very soon India became a hub of hydropower equipment also. And we became self-sufficient and started making all that equipment in India. Subsequently, we started working on wind. Again, initially all the wind plants were imported, but looking at the rapid pace with which we developed our wind plants, very soon technologies were developed in India. And we finally make probably wind equipment for the rest of the world in India now. We have several very good companies making wind power equipment. And today we are self-sufficient in equipment which makes wind power. Because the volumes went up, justified manufacturing in India. Our third tryst with the renewable power sector was solar. And that's the biggest potential. In solar, I remember the government before Prime Minister Modi had set up a target to make 20 gigawatt of solar power by 2022. One of the first decisions I took under the guidance of Prime Minister Modi in 2014 was to up the ante from 20 gigawatt to 100 gigawatt by 2022. In fact, that's about the time our thinking moved from megawatts to gigawatts. And the idea was that how can we bring scale to India? I remember originally when we started wind power, solar power in India, our original target was 1 gigawatt. And most of it was located in Gujarat, the state from where Mr. Modi comes. He was the chief minister of that state at that point of time. Power was extremely expensive. It was 7 times more expensive than today, 700% of what it is today. But Mr. Modi, being a visionary, decided to start setting up solar plants at that high cost, which is not a very popular decision politically. But recognizing the long-term requirement, we started setting up solar plants there. Most of it were imported, and started our foray into the solar power sector. That's about 2 decades ago. I still remember those high prices were a detriment to domestic manufacturing because the scale was so small, prices were so high, every entrepreneur could see that in the long run it's not sustainable. Yet a few people did foray into solar power equipment manufacturing. Sadly, most of them failed. Probably didn't assess the pricing right or the technology right. And almost all of them became defunct as we moved on. When Prime Minister Modi became he became Prime Minister in 2014, he realized that we'll have to increase the volume significantly enough to be able to drive down prices, also to bring scale to our domestic manufacturing, which will make it competitive and viable, and demonstrate to them that there's a big market for your produce in India. And therefore, we started bidding out projects in a very big way in the period 2014 to 2017. To the extent that you'll be happy to know, as do most of the other Indian participants on this conference, that we were able to drive down prices from, at that point of time in 2014, it was about 17, 18 US cents per kilowatt hour of energy. We were able to drive it down to 3 cents, 3.25 cents per kilowatt hour of energy. At 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour, we are actually cheaper than carbon-based thermal power when we produce solar power in India. And because of the huge scale at which we bid out, we were able to get the world's best companies to come to India, invest in India. We were able to get very competitive pricing, and we had allowed imports. We didn't try to stall the imports. Our logic being that if we were to create a burden or come in the midst of imports, we would never be able to drive down prices. And if we didn't drive down prices, the demand would not come in. The distribution companies would not afford very expensive power. The moment it became 3.5 cents, we were able to start selling that power to the distribution companies comfortably. And we were able to show to the domestic manufacturers that should you produce in India, there's a large market waiting for you out there. And then it was a question of bridging a little bit of the gap between cheaper imports and a slightly higher cost of manufacturing in India. So we still are a little bit import dependent on some of our products. So really, in a sense, it is because we wet our feet in the water initially, even though we probably got a little bit hurt, we learned how to swim very quickly thereafter. And that's what the Indian solar energy story is all about. So in sequence, hydro, wind, solar, we've seen 3 success stories, which empowers us to now up the ante further, so that from an overall renewable energy target of 175 gigawatt by 2022, India is now looking at 450 gigawatt by 2030. And that's probably the world's fastest and largest ramp up of clean energy that is currently underway. Of course, you lose out sometimes. In between, we attempted geothermal also, but we didn't succeed. Geothermal didn't turn out to be either technologically viable or financially viable. We dropped that idea. So we've not even been dogmatic about our renewable energy story, irrespective whether import or domestic. Our idea is to make India conscious of its electricity needs being met in a more sustainable fashion and balancing the cost of electricity in such a manner that our developmental goals do not get affected. In fact, we are now embarking on the next stage where we are looking at focusing on electric vehicles in a big way. Because we do believe that diesel or petrol, crude oil, is another very big drain on our Indian foreign exchange because we are largely import dependent. And secondly, it's time that we looked at pollution from the automobile sector also very seriously. Brazil is a role model in some sense for us as we are expanding our ethanol production. When in 14 we came into government, India was at about 1% ethanol in our petrol. The blending was 1%. This year, we will be 8.5% of our petrol need will be blended with ethanol. Our original target was to be 20% by 2030. We first moved it to 20% by 2025. And I'm happy to share with this august audience that we are now looking at 20% ethanol blending in the next 2 years, 2 to 2.5 years. By 23-24, India is going to be 20% blending ethanol in our petrol products. And of course, our ultimate target is to have also vehicles which can take up to 100% ethanol, some of which I saw when I came to your beautiful country for the BRICS conference. And I actually walked up to a gas station in Brasilia to look at all the various pumps offering different ethanol blended fuels and get a sense of what's happening over there. So really, electric vehicles, another major step forward. We believe battery technologies are going to be very important for our sustainability mission and for renewable energy to progress more. Because of the intermittent nature of renewable energy, we need adequate storage. So we are investing heavily on batteries now. Similarly, we are looking at how we can make these batteries in these electric vehicles create a natural hedge or a natural storage capacity for the nation to balance our grid requirements. So we'll encourage automobile users of electric cars to recharge their batteries using renewable energy or solar energy in the day hours, and for which we are looking at a big rollout of charging stations across gas stations all across the country. So all our petrol pumps gradually will start having fast chargers and chargers installed, because that's going to be the enabler for a rapid rollout of electric vehicles. I'm also very happy to share with you that we are already looking into the future and have started engaging with hydrogen technologies. We now have a hydrogen mission, and the Prime Minister has often articulated his vision to promote hydrogen. We are looking at research and development on it, and we have already announced a comprehensive national hydrogen energy mission, which is going to work on generating hydrogen from green power sources. In the recent budget, the Honorable Finance Minister announced the launch of this hydrogen energy mission, and we do hope to see significant progress towards that end. Incidentally, we also have another success story around our LED lighting. India is the world's LED lighting capital. We are probably the largest consumers of LED bulbs or tube lights. You go to any store in India, you'll find it difficult to get an incandescent bulb anymore. It would probably sell as an antique piece at 10 times the price of an LED bulb. But the LED mission was another success story led by Prime Minister Modi, where we were able to bring scale. Initially, if required, we even imported LED bulbs to scale. rapidly rolled it out all over the country. We are probably today, in the last, if you see 6 years, we must have consumed close to 1.5 or 2 billion LED lighting equipment. Our prices are down from 2014 to 2017, 3 years, by about 85%. The price of LED fell, and having a long life and large amount of illumination. Today, everybody in the country, offices, homes, factories, everybody uses LED lighting. And that has saved the country billions of dollars in electricity bills that consumers have saved. And as a nation, we brought down our carbon emissions by over 120 million tons every year, just through one program to change over from incandescent bulbs to LED bulbs. And they're now largely manufactured in India. They're, of course, coming out with another program to incentivize those who make components for LED bulbs, which are being assembled in India, so that we can become more and more self-reliant on that score. So all in all, I just thought I'll share with this distinguished audience India's twist with the clean energy sector, starting with scale, starting with self-reliance, starting with a huge manufacturing ecosystem that is already functional in some sectors, that will grow in other sectors soon. And we have full confidence that this is one area where India will play a leadership role in the years to come. As it is often said, we are the first generation to feel the impact of climate change. But we are the last generation who has an opportunity to do something about it. So it's something that we are all equally responsible for. And I'd like to invite all the participants of this very important conference to engage even more actively in this fast-growing, important sector. I wish all of you success in your manufacturing plans. Always happy to help in any way we can to support your efforts. We are going through tough times, but the best always comes out when we are faced with adversity. So let not COVID or the COVID pandemic deter us from the economic objectives and the very, very big imperative of sustainability that the world is confronted with. Let's work together as a team, working shoulder to shoulder to resolve this big crisis that faces the world. My best wishes to this conference and exhibition. I believe you have concluded today after a very successful 2-day engagement. I'm sure you'll come up with a paper which will enlighten us more about your deliberations of the 2 days. And I'm sure you'll continue with your own efforts to bring about the manufacturing revolution in India in the renewable energy space. God bless all of you. My best wishes for your good health and safety. Thank you.
Dear Minister Goyal, always a pleasure to listen to you. The depth and breadth of your knowledge, coupled with your oration skills, how simply and chronologically you've explained the transition of India energy sector starting from 1800s, from 20 gigawatts, 20 gigawatt plan to 175 gigawatt plan, to now a 400 gigawatt plan, is all due to you and to our Honorable Prime Minister. Your vision, his vision, and we're now making it happen. And now you have showed us a new vision for Atmanirbhar. So not only will we have 450 gigawatts of renewable energy, we'll also manufacture a large part of it in India. Then the vision on ethanol then electric vehicles and hydrogen. I thank you from leading from the front. I thank you for your contribution to this meeting, for your contribution to the RE sector, and most importantly, for your contribution to the progress of the country. Many years from now, when climate change will be behind us, and at some point it will be, and I'm a climate optimist, I think your name will be written in broad, big letters, and India will have a lot to thank you for. Dear Ms. Costa, thank you for giving us insights into the Brazil energy sector, ethanol, biodiesel, hydropower, hydrogen, solar. These are very wide canvas of collaboration between our two beautiful nations. I am sure this is only a beginning of a beautiful and a mutually beneficial relationship. And I'm sure we will go a long way in our relationship. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here. I'd like to thank the participants. I'd like to thank CB. And I hope, as the minister said, climate change, we are the last, and whatever we do must be done in this decade itself. So the solutions have to be here and now, and they have to be implemented before, I guess, the turn of the century. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Costa.